Welcome to Transforming Us podcast. I'm Jess.
And I'm Tamara. We're trauma-informed relationship coaches and old friends here to discuss common patterns and what leads us to paths of security.
You know, people are feeling overwhelmed and disconnected in their painful relationships, which often leads to mental health crises.
We want to share some new ideas and practices to help you cultivate curiosity, compassion, and to redeem the patterns in your relationships, starting with yourself.
Join us on this journey of transforming us. Grab a cup of coffee and let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today is truly a full circle experience for me because I get to sit down with a very dear friend of mine. She has been a mentor, a teacher, a fellow homeschool mom, and just such an inspiration to me on my Enneagram journey. Christa Hardin is a relationship expert and author bringing over 20 years of experience in clinical psychology and marriage research to her work. As the founder of Reflections Counseling and Coaching Center and the host of Enneagram and Marriage podcast, she specializes in helping couples use their Enneagram, attachment, and other systems to move through the stages of their relationship to grow a deeper connection. Her best-selling title, The Enneagram in Marriage, Your Guide to Thriving Together in Your Unique Pairing, details all 45 Enneagram pairings in relationships in an easy-to-understand manner. Also, she will be releasing another book in 2027 about the instincts, so I cannot wait for that. Christa has been married to her husband, Wes, for over 2 decades. Together, they reside in Florida with their 3 children, where she balances her professional practice with her love for family and everything adventure. She loves Pure Barre and even hosts these fantastic mystery dinner games with her husband. So much fun. I met Christa back in 2022 when I was doing an Enneagram and Marriage certification, and I still have so many fond memories of our cohort and how we learned together. Then my husband and I got to meet her in Sarasota, Florida, and he got to meet Wes and later became an Enneagram coach himself. As 2 homeschool moms, we just both know juggling family and business, and she leads everything she does with such a trauma-informed perspective. I just really respect that, and her heart for Christ shines the brightest of all. So today with Christa, we're going to go deep on Enneagram and attachment and marriage and all the little patterns of her as a 7. And so, of course, we're going to have some fun along the way. So welcome, Christa, to the Transforming Us podcast. I'm so glad that you could join me here today. Is there anything else you want to share about your family or your practice?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me, Jessica. We love you and Travis and the work you're doing. I was able to, as we were chatting, talk about one of your recent interviews that I loved with Katie. And I just thank you for telling others about me. I guess the only other thing I might say is we have a new fun quiz out that we're doing typing with couples now. So that's something people can hop on over to quizforcouples.com and add that to our interview time where they might say, oh my gosh, I've taken the Enneagram, but I want to take it with my partner. So Wes and I, my husband and I are working on that right now too.
Oh, I love that you created that for people. I think it is so needed to have that couple aspect to taking the assessment together and be able to see where each falls. And does that includes the instincts as well? Or is it focused mainly on Enneagram? Okay.
Yeah, it's type and instinct. And Wes is having
Oh.
so much fun. My husband's not as into Enneagram as I am, but he's good at making things clarified. And so he's been learning about himself as I teach him about the Enneagram as we build the quiz together. And he was like, oh, I guess type 1s are kind of hard on people. It's really cute to hear him realizing that. He's like, I put in all the negative things just to see what would happen, and it said I was a 1.
Wow. That's
So we're learning all
amazing.
kinds of things.
Yeah, and I'm glad you guys can do that together because I see you as such a great team. You know, he's so
Oh,
supportive of the work
you.
you're doing and you of him and
Yay.
his medical practice. So,
Yes.
yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that, like the 1-7 pairing. You're the 7, like I mentioned.
Yes.
But yeah, you guys just got back from a big trip. So, do you want to share anything that you're grateful for, or maybe what you're looking forward to?
Well, I'm grateful for time to get away from my work because I think anyone listening who likes their work, you really don't realize when it's stressing you out sometimes. And I think I was really noticing it about a week before we left. I was like, I really carry quite a lot and I need a break. So, something I'm grateful for is that I took it. And I really took it. I allowed myself some space and distance. I pre recorded podcasts and I just really enjoyed time doing something else. And so, I mean, maybe it's a bit teachable for others too. If you're in the middle of just a heavy season, just even taking a day off fully really can help. And for me, it had been a while since I had taken, maybe even like 9 months since I'd taken a really good, nice time off. And I just want to name how we come back to the work so much more refreshed when we do that. So maybe you're at a point of burnout and instead of quitting, you can just rest a bit. And that was good for me to see because I was like, gosh, this week feels so heavy. Do I like my job? And I'm like, I do. I love it. I just need a little break. So I'm also looking forward to another one in a few months. And I'm reminding myself I'm allowed to do that.
Yes, that permission to just be and let your nervous system kind of reset and
Mm.
remembering that you are not what you do. I feel like, we all, especially in this culture in our world that is just go, go, go and fill it up and, you know, like margins are meant to be
Mhm.
filled up. I had met with some women recently. We were talking about filling up our margins with what fills our soul, right? So physically,
Oh,
emotionally, relationally, all these things. And just you as a 7 going, "Well, what makes me come alive? Like what inspires me? What makes me feel at home again?" And all that stuff. So unique to how you're wired. Um,
thank you.
yeah.
Yes, it is. And people think sevens are always like, oh, we're always running, running, running. But sometimes it's just the mental running. We just need to slow down even that way.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, love to get a little bit more into your experience as a 7. What even brought you to the Enneagram in the first place? Because I know you began your practice as a therapist. What year? How many years
Mhm.
ago?
Yeah, this was, I guess, 2004. I got my
Okay.
MA and started the work in 2003-ish. So about
Yeah.
20 years I've been working because I took a couple of years off to do other things, put Wes through medical school. And so these last 20 years or so of doing the work have really been great, but getting to the Enneagram almost a decade ago now, back in 2017, was really life-changing for my clients and I because it gave us the opportunity to do assessments much quicker. As you heard
Mm,
me talking about Wes and I developing a quiz, I mean, we're really getting to the heart of people's issues right when they need to. And as couples, as I always teach my coaches, like couples come to us desperate. They come to us, I'm on the brink of moving out, I've had an affair, all these big things. And
mhm,
when you're like, well, I need to do 15 assessments with you and spend $1,000 doing this or that, a lot of the time they don't have any kind of that bandwidth. So the
mhm,
Enneagram became an extremely practical way for me to help people to identify what are my deepest issues and insecurities? Where do I feel safe and
mm.
how? And let's find out about my partner too. And then we can do much greater work together. So it's a much quicker way to get to the depths. You still have to do the work. But as you know, Jessica, from your own journey, it takes a long time if you don't have good tools to get down to what you need to do, right?
Yes. Yes. I mean, I call it a catalyst. Like, I really believe the
Mm.
same thing. I found that to be the quickest route to not only understanding the patterns, but yeah, like the core fears, the emotions, and then levels
Yeah.
of health, like, and just being able to look at and evaluate all within the same system. Because, like,
Yeah.
as you know, in the psychology world, there's like a million different assessments and systems. And there's
Hmm.
probably some overlap. They don't have the common language. So with
Yes.
the Enneagram, you have a common language, and then you have like lines and wings and all these things that help
Mhm.
help you nuance the
Mhm.
awareness and then show you a path to become healthier in your number or your numbers, like your top numbers, because we're not
Yeah.
always just one number. So,
Exactly. Yes. That's so good. And it's kind of like doing a surgery with a butter knife. Otherwise, like you're cutting a little bit, you'll get there eventually. But it's just like so nice to have the right place and way to go in. And as you said, to the multi layers, right? If we were to nerd out with like the skin and then this and that, like that's how
oh,
Enneagram is
yeah.
too. It's like the onion, right?
Yeah. So many layers. So you began using the Enneagram and that was primarily in your therapy practice, but then did you eventually transition to solely coaching and then you began your podcast? And like, tell me about that journey.
Well, I actually began using it pretty quickly for Wes and I too, because I was immediately brought back by my type 4 friend who said, "You need to give it a second look."
Mm-hmm.
And I did, and then I said, "Wes, what's your type?" I found out I was a 7, days ago probably at that point. I had actually already taken a quiz a while before that, but I had heard you're a 7 and I didn't know what to do with it, whereas many listeners maybe felt that too, like, "Okay, I found out my number. So what? I read 1 paragraph." Didn't realize this is only the beginning of the journey. So my type 4 friend says, "Give it another look." I did a Bible study on it at Willow Creek Church. You'll have a lot with your couples, I think, here. And that was where she left me. So that gave me the impetus to use it for my couples and then ask Wes to take the measure. And of course, he's a therapist partner. He's like, "I've taken so many measures with you." So then he found out he was a type 1 and he pushed the computer away. He's like, "Oh, I'm a 1. I'm a perfectionist." And it was so funny because I was like, that is so great that you even had that body type reaction, like push away. Like I'm fully a type 1. For anyone who knows ones, they are gut type. And so, but then he's like, "But I love the checklist." So yeah, I'm owning it. So we started to do the work very quickly. And I can still remember I was sitting in this very office when I really reflected on, "Oh my gosh, I'm no picnic." So so that
Yeah.
helps me to be like, "Oh gosh, I have stuff to work on too." The Enneagram's helping me to see that more clearly. And then, within a couple years, I was sharing it so much in my community that people were like, becoming like knowing me for it. And I was starting to get busier than my practice would allow. And so I've always worked part time. And so I was like, what can I do to expand where I'm sharing, but also know that my hours aren't really going to change right now? So,
Mm.
that's, I have really deep kids who want a lot of time with me. And I also have a husband who is very much loves attention, and I also love my self-care time. So on top of my clients, like just doesn't leave me with much. So I did an Instagram and then a podcast, and those have been really great ways, and even written a book to kind of have some private time to do these things, but also really pour into the people I love with intention. So I feel like that's how my whole journey has formed. And as you know, I'm a self-pres subtype followed by sexual. So it's like I really like the time to recover and I really like the time for the deep work I do, but it just takes a lot from me. So I've really like set up my life to have, it's hard and it's big as we said earlier about needing breaks, but it is the life I want to be living and it does feel like it has a congruency for me. So that's a
Mm.
long answer to how I found the Enneagram and why I'm using it and how I've
Yeah.
spread out to the podcast.
Mm. And one of the things I appreciate the most about you is your love for family and your pacing and your authenticity. And like what I think
Oh,
you've just shared is you're creating a podcast and writing a book and these things. It was like to be able to use your gift of teaching and yet still right size your life. Like you
mm,
can still
thank
stay
you.
within the means of I want to give time to my family and my kids, but I want to make an impact and use my gifts for for
Yes.
these couples that desperately need this information. This is life changing. And so you saw that with the couples you were working with, but to be able to expand it wasn't about becoming an expert or, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
making a ton of money or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's truly
Mhm.
this authentic, quiet, like I want to make a difference and,
Yes.
and just help people love one another better. I just wanted to say that it's just beautiful how
Oh,
this tool has helped you
oh,
just walk
thank
towards Christ and
you.
towards others.
Yes.
So,
Mm,
and you shared the self-preserving part. So I think we share that in
oh,
common is that
mm,
desire to kind of create order and, pace ourselves and feel healthy and,
oh,
set
yeah.
limits or boundaries where needed. And, um,
Mhm.
yeah, there's also, that side of it where it's like you might say no before you say yes.
Yeah.
So and you mentioned your book, so I have that here to show people.
Ah,
So there's tons of available things that Krista has on her website that shows about marriage pairing. So when you find out your Enneagram number or you take her quiz, then now you have these tools to look at the side by side of you and your spouse's or your partner's pairing. And that's a huge part of the work you do, the 45 glow
mm.
pairings and your glow theory. So is there anything more you wanted to say about that?
Just that I think that don't worry if you're in an opposites attract pairing. Because I think that you guys sometimes, and me too, we would worry like, "Oh no, we're too different." And I think that often those differences are create a richness and a balance for your family. And I actually want to caution those who are really finding themselves in very similar places that that's often a blind spot. And I work with a lot of couples and talk to a lot of couples, and I can tell you that sometimes the ones that are very similar have some of the deepest heartaches with the next generation because they're not doing their work, they're not balancing, and then their kids are very like, learning lopsided truths like,
Mm.
oh, life is all sunshine and roses or life is all judgments. And like the more variety within you guys that you can find and exploit, if you can't find much, then try to exploit the little bits you do find, like, oh, we have different wings or, we have different instincts. Like those differences are rich and they create this beautiful harmony. And your kids and family and friends that you both influence will get so much more from you both if you allow for differences.
That's such a good reminder that the
Mm.
differences, although sometimes they do create conflict, there is a beauty in that balance that comes when you're not the same. And
Mhm.
and you're attracted to somebody that's different than you partly because they have something that you need. At
Yeah,
least that's true in my marriage for sure. Me and
yeah,
my husband are so different as a 4 and an 8, um, and different instincts as well. So, yeah.
yeah. I love that. I was thinking that you guys really are the biggest of the different pairings, and yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and our
Really
kids would
is.
say, like, just that, like, how different we are. It's like they get different things from each
Mhm.
of us,
They
Like,
really
I'm like
do.
the soft and the compassionate and the creative and the deep and all this stuff, and Travis absolutely can be those things for sure, but his more
Mhm.
natural space is, like, strength and confidence and, competition or even, empowering others, just really totally different energy.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it's so cute. I love to see you guys' marriage. You guys do shine so brightly.
Mm. Well, I love him very much.
Mhm.
So, along with the glow pairings that are it's in your book, and there's a lot on your website for people to explore. Is you talk about the stages of marriage. There's 5 stages, and sometimes we hit these shadowy stages that oftentimes that's when people really seek out marriage help.
Yeah.
They come to see you or me or a
Mhm.
therapist or, and they're just saying, I don't know what is going on, but we are just are fighting all the time or
Yeah,
we've grown so distant, like we don't have anything
yeah,
in common anymore. These are the shadowy places.
yeah.
What would you say the hope in knowing kind of the full spectrum of where they might go if they take the time and patience to explore it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that it would be that they would explore through the lens of we're not alone because most of the couples that come to see me and you, they're like, "Oh my gosh, like everyone around me is thriving and doing so well." And sometimes it's because they have a person in the honeymoon stage of life, but often it's just because people aren't showing them that side. I mean, Anne Frank's father said that he didn't even know his own daughter under the same roof during their time in the annex. I mean, and they were nose to nose almost. And so just know that, like, even a lot of your dear and near friends might not be telling you they are having hard times too. I know that happened with somebody in our marriage Bible study, and then they're like, "Oh, we were on the edge of our marriage." Like, and I'm like, "I had no idea." And so just know that that's very real. And so when you're walking through the stages, it's like, "Oh, we have the honeymoon glimmer, and then we heal each other a little bit, and then we hit the walls." And some of us will fall into a darkness. Some of us will have great support, use tools. Maybe we've even had great attachment, which I know we're going to talk about today. And we plug through better. But either way, we're touched by the losses in marriage. We have to look at what we don't have. We have to lament, and everyone has to do that at some point. So just don't think you're alone. I think that's the biggest thing I wanted to teach about the glow in that way is we shine together so beautifully in the gifts we each have, like I said about you and Travis, but each couple will do that differently depending on your personality
Mhm.
types. And it's so fun to figure out how do we shine? What are our gifts together? Are we great
Mm.
hosts together? Are we great at, making sure that other people feel like they got wisdom from us? Are we the ones who are so good at adventure and leading the way for that? And there's so many pockets that people have. I know Wes and I love teaming up to love our nieces and nephews, the kids in our lives. So I think that certain pairings have certain gifts, but they also have, like I said, certain shadows. You're not alone. And
Yeah.
focusing on your gifts is huge, but also being aware of your shadows is huge. And then you can kind of have that 2.0 or afterglow of like, we have tools. We know what to do when we get upset, and we are really good now at shining our light in the world and being that city on a hill for Christ.
Mm.
So those are some of the things I like to talk about when I think about the glow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely see that with you and Wes, the way that you
Oh,
guys, you kinda live into the glow side of really these are the positive qualities, these are the gifts. We can always see the places
yeah.
where we get frustrated,
Yes.
because we have that negativity bias as humans. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna lean to quickly see the places that are hard, but like the nuanced ways in which we can support each other is really important. So
Mhm.
with you, as a 7, would you just for those who are tuning in going, "Oh, it's an Enneagram 7. I wanna learn more about
Yeah.
my number." Would
Yeah.
you share with me from your perspective, like, what is an Enneagram 7? Like, what are the ways they
Mm.
get stuck? What are their gifts? What are their fears? Anything you wanna say about that?
So if you're not familiar with the 7, you might, after I describe that, it's almost like the Jim Carrey figure in your life, like the person who's like very, very joyful, almost to the crazy point at times. And then they calm down and then they're right back up again. They squirrel a lot. They are always moving quickly in the world, kinetic. Basically, it's like there's going to be different versions of 7s. You heard me say I'm the more self-pres, so my energy is more measured through the day. And there's arrows that 7 goes to. Every type has other types it's similar to when they're healthy and stressed. And the 7 goes to type 5 when we're healthy. So when we can sober up and take our lives at a more healthy pace than the crazy Jim Carrey pace, hopefully he's learned to do that too, as he's gotten older. I've heard multiple comments, but basically you start to go into your 5 of researching, of sitting with things, of letting yourself be serious, and then you still come back constantly, bouncing back up for lightness and fun, but it's this different way of doing it that is more thoughtful and caring. So that is sort of the outer behavioral lens of a 7. What's happening internally is that we're kinetic learners, as I mentioned, and we like to move around a lot. I'm always moving, even if I'm sitting here, I'm probably doing something with my hands. And I think that people really can struggle with that sometimes with sevens, but we need that because that's how we're wired. So that helps people to know this is not something somebody's doing to annoy you. It's just part of their self soothing. Because as part of the Enneagram, there's body types, heart types, and thinking types. And sevens are part of the thinking analytical types. And so we have our brains running pretty quickly at all times. And when we're thinking about anxious thoughts sometimes. And as sevens, you might not be aware of it. I'm certainly not always aware, but there's some kind of a tracking for safety going on. Am I safe? So what do we want when we're safe, right? We love soothing touch, that havening process of allowing ourselves just some touch, some maybe it's even the touch of our feet on the ground or taking that next step on our run or making sure that we are being loved on by a family member with gentle touch. I know when my family comes up to me and even brushes up against me, I'm like, oh, stay there. That feels so good. So it just makes us feel soothed. And that's a big thing for a thinking type is to feel safe and soothed. So you'll find us making plans to feel safe and soothed. A lot of sevens will make plans spontaneously because they're looking at how do I feel in this moment? I'm a kinetic moving learner. Maybe I'm tired right now and I need a nap. Maybe probably not a long one, but maybe I want to move around and then I'll find my way back to my healthy thinking. Like there's a sense of I have to make plans because if I don't make them, I might not be safe. And I'm pretty good at making plans. And that can bother the people around us when they're like, you're kind of bossy with those plans or you're trying to protect yourself. So those are things that sevens have to look at. And that's the last thing I'll say about this is we just have to look like, am I considering myself over others? And that's something my family has really been good about helping me to see is like just being a mom. That was one layer, but then being a mom of older kids and talking it through was a totally next level layer. And also being married to just kind of go, yeah, this is all important to me. But if you're a seven or with a seven, to know that, yes, protecting your own nervous energy is a part of the work of being human, but so is loving others and finding ways to self soothe when you're loving others. So that is our work to do is how do I still maintain my nervous system regulation and love others at the same time?
Yeah, so good. I love hearing your mind work through all the nuances of how being a 7 looks like for you, getting the perspective of every 7 I know. It's like, you're gonna get little bits and pieces that it's
Yes.
like, "Oh, I would have never thought that." And, I don't know
Yeah.
what it's like to be a 7. My
Yeah.
daughter's a 7. Um,
Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah, it's so
Um,
good, so good. And then you add tri-type, which is different than some of the other groups of 3 on the Enneagram system, but Catherine Favre came up with the tri-type theory, and you and I actually share the exact same 3
yes.
numbers, 7, 4, and
Oh,
9 for you, right?
yep. Mhm. And you
So
are 479, right?
I am probably 497 in that
49.
order. I'm probably higher in the
Oh.
9 than I am in the 7, but when you get me going with an idea or, like, thinking through, um, strategic type things, man, does my brain speed up.
Yes. I love
It's
that about
crazy.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got to thinking about like the adaptive strategies when you look at tri-type. And so I don't know if this is true for you, but for me, the 7 is kind of almost trying to manufacture safety through planning ideal outcomes. The 4
Mhm.
is trying to be beloved through uniqueness and depth. And the
Yeah.
9 space is kind of a, autonomy or trying to find control through withdrawal or resort to maybe peacekeeping, that these are the ways in which I kind of taken over for God and
Mhm.
not necessarily um, using the best sides of those. So I don't know if any of those things are true for you.
Oh, yeah, all of them. When I'm not healthy,
Yeah.
when I am, they look higher, but when I'm not, it's like, yeah, those are very true, and you just have to really continue the work of being a Christian to go, okay, I need to love today. I need to love outside of
Hmm.
myself and my peacekeeping or my, wanting to be loved in a perfect way as a 7 or a 4 because they're both idealists. I like how you named
Hmm.
them more specifically, but those are two idealist types. So it's coming back down to earth instead of
Yes.
pretending we can have heaven here and just like, what is really happening? You know what? What's really happening is okay. Even if I have pain or boredom or loss or even some anxiety, like all of that is part of being alive and being human. And you're not always going to
Mhm.
have a euphoric experience or a peaceful experience. So I know that's our work to do as gentle spirit tri types. But I think we also love as gentle spirit tri types. I love how with tri types, when you give yourself a head, heart, and body type, if you look at your Enneagram and you go, what's my head type? What's my heart type? What's my body type? You get to say, oh, how do these work together for a job? And you and I are very similarly wired for jobs, as is my daughter Hannah, who shares our tri type, and now she's been accepted into the MFT program. So it's really fun to see how just like people will say Myers-Briggs for job, like you can use tri-types for job as well. So I like how you reference Catherine Favre because she has these descriptions for each of the tri-types. And I know people can also now chat GPT them, but it's nice to say with my tri-type being what it is, what are some careers that might fit me? So I just love that part of the Enneagram.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and the fascinating part for me, because I look at like whole systems I had just recently done a training on the harmony triads, which is a different group of three where you have a connection to head, heart, and body. And yet, like, there's almost like a development side of like when the nine's not working for me in the body center, really the one brings a sense of harmony. When the 4, 7, and 1 are in sync, I feel more grounded in having access to three numbers that all have different gifts. So that's
Mm,
been a something that's been cool to explore. But yeah, I
yes.
definitely see that when I'm in my healthier space, the 7 brings that joy and possibility, and
Mm,
the 4 brings the kind of depth that isn't like I'm not trying to find my identity in it, but it's just
yeah.
a luscious place to explore,
Mm,
my introspection and just the
mm,
mind and heart and all that stuff. And
yes.
then, the 9 has this like peaceful perspective on like all sides of a situation. So
Mm,
those are all great gifts with those
yes.
numbers.
Yes.
But yeah, so that I wanted to introduce that because I don't think on the podcast I've shared anything about tri-type. And I know you're somebody that knows a lot about that and we share that in common. So,
Mhm.
but
Yes, I'm so glad you did.
let's switch gears a little bit to the idea of attachment theory and family systems. I know you've taught me some about attachment theory in our course, and you've done different deep dives on your podcast, and really appreciate that. So, in terms of family of origin and just kind of where you land with your story of attachment, what does that look like as far as your work and maybe how it's even changed your parenting?
Well, actually, my podcast is on this, so I'm fresh on this right now too. I just did an episode on this that hasn't come out yet, but basically, it's really fun to look at like, okay, I had this growing up, but I want better for the next, right? I want to be that Moses generation who passes on, even better than I had. I may not get to do it all, but I hope you get to, and I hope I get to do a lot of it. So that's how I've sort of looked at my attachment is I had some really great attachment. And we think of that as secure attachment, but we also, most of us have had moments of anxious attachment or avoidant attachment where we just learned, as you know, growing up, it was better to fight it out or it was better to go away and that would get our needs met and we would come back to at least somewhat of a safe place and we would survive. And so we bring those into our marriage and our parenting and we do so without even realizing it sometimes. And our kids can be such a good mirror to teach us you know, they're not a tabula rasa, whatever the phrase is about blank slate. They're not fully blank slate, but they are a good mirror, I think, to say, like, ouch, that really hurt, mom. Or, where did you go if you're being in that withdrawing state? And so kids can help you to. I always have thought of it like I can let them make me holier or I can make them less holy. I've always noticed that as I
Mm.
was parenting. Like, this is a moment right here where you could bring them down or you could bring them up. But like that's really something that I've thought a lot about in my parenting to try to be more intentional. And when I'm not good at it, I try to say it to them so that they can see. And that's just something that's always been so close to my heart ever since I was a little girl and had what I was aware of as my first sin. And I just remember feeling like I want my kids to be better. And I really do still want that, but I've had to also realize like you can't put too much pressure on the next generation to be perfect. So that's been part of my attachment journey also is realizing like the good enough mother, the good enough child, like no one is going
Yeah.
to do attachment perfectly. You're still going to have anxious moments, certain ways I was raised, like I said, gave me both good attachment
Mhm.
and anxious and avoidant. And I think a lot of us are getting to know that a little more too. Whereas we used to be like, I'm only anxious or I'm only
Right.
avoidant or I'm just disorganized. It's more like we all have a bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a spectrum where
Mhm.
we visit places, just like, I
Yeah.
am not angry. I might be experiencing anger right now. Like,
Yeah.
I am not
Mhm.
anxious. I might
Yeah.
be experiencing anxiousness in my
Oh.
relationship right now. And so I love that
Mm.
way of looking at it, that it's not that you are these things, that
Yes.
you might experience these different things based on what's triggering, or what isn't quite healed yet. So I love that perspective.
Mm.
It makes me
Yeah.
think some of Gottman, you and I both share just a love for John and Julie Gottman and the Gottman Institute. And they talk about attunement a lot, and positive perspective and appreciation and friendship and all these good things that really are just it's secure attachment, right?
Yeah.
In
That's a good
relationship.
point. I know you did some extra Gottman training, and that's a great takeaway.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely think, it's just almost it's very biblical too, when you look at the
Mhm.
way that, we are to love one another. It's
Mm.
truly just trying to see the best, and,
Mhm.
um and just connecting on that friendship level and listening well, all that sort of
Mm.
stuff. And I
Yes.
like how you said too, we don't have to get it perfect, that, repair is really a huge factor in whether
Mhm.
a child grows up to have secure attachment or not, is not did the parent get it perfect, but when
Yeah.
they didn't get it right, were they willing to attune and repair and, say
Yes.
they were sorry, or at least listen that
Yeah.
you were hurt by it. So,
Exactly. I love that, and my kids will tease me, which is what made me smile when I'm overly doing that, and they're like, "Oh, mom, stop." Like, my 9 has some really witty comments, I can't remember what they are because 'cause I'm not a 9, but, like, she'll put me in my place if I'm, like, even doing that too much, sorrowing and well I'm a terrible person or mother, and, like, I don't try to say that, obviously, I don't wanna be toxic, but, like, just say that's the MO, that's the way it's presenting. She's just like, "Get
yeah.
over yourself," like, "It's not that big of a deal what you did, you didn't, like, torch us or something," and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Okay," like, I see how I could overdo on that end too of, like, overly attuning or apologizing, and they're just like, "Ew." It's like, differentiate a little bit.
Yes. Yes. And they're like,
Mm.
"Mom, I'm actually pretty secure. I'm okay. Like, thanks, but we're moving on."
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I love it when they get older.
I know. I love that you have a fun 7 child, like, a fun
Yes.
9, a fun 7, like, it's always neat to have somebody who can bring the mood up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get it.
So just for reference, because I like to overlay what it looks like for each number to experience the anxious side of attachment, the avoidant
Mm.
side of the attachment, or maybe even the fearful side. If you were to sort of quickly just say, this is what a 7 might look like in the anxious space, the avoidant place, or the fearful place. And then,
Mm.
maybe finishing up with that secure perspective for the 7. Doesn't have to be
Mhm.
long, but could you
Yeah.
think of that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So basically, if somebody was in the anxious 7 space, they're probably going to be leaning more on their 6 wing. They're not going to be very sure about much. And you're going to see a bit more scattered, flighty, and fawning side of the 7. And they could even react in a fight side also because I'm anxious and I'm scared. And so I'm going to fight. If you see them in that avoidant space, they're going to be more And they're 5. They're going to be more going toward that cave, like I'm learning, I'm busy, I'm researching, I'm doing my own thing. I'm in my revelries, whatever makes me happy, whatever makes me joyful, and preserves my own joy. That's what I'm doing. I want to do what I want. So you're going to see a bit more of the stubborn 7, who we don't talk a lot about the stubborn 7, but there really is, because 7s have a planning fixation. So if that gets too locked in of we're doing this or I'm doing this, it can be very difficult for their spouse or family, and it's not a really big place of growth. So sometimes people don't know your growth number isn't always a place of growth if you overdo it. So that's what the avoidance 7 often tends to look like. Or it could, I mean, there's so much more we could say, but like just avoiding the problems, right? Like, oh, I'm not going to do anything about it because I'm a
Yeah.
7. And so I'm not going to pay taxes for years, or I'm, going to not do any of my parenting. Like it could be extreme, or it could be all those small things I said.
Sure.
And then I would say for the secure, is that where we're going next, or was there one more I missed?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, unless you have a nuance for fearful. Well, you said fearful. You
The
said
anxious I
anxious.
was putting together with fearful.
Okay,
Um,
gotcha. Yeah.
but
But
I was
it really is a
thinking,
bit of both.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it is, and the
Yeah.
fear could
Yeah.
come out with a lot with the rage or control of the planning fixation, or it could
Sure.
come out with, like, just like I said, flighty, anxious, bobbling, scattered, not centered on themselves, not finishing a project or goal. And then, of
Mm,
course, we're seeing if there's a 7 who is more secure, there's still gonna be elements of this. Surprise, no one's perfect. You're gonna see
yeah.
hints and threads of this, because no one's nervous system is regulated all the time. No one is not sinning at all. But when the vices are lower, when there's more intentional work, there's going to be a bit of a rhythm. They may not have a schedule, but there'll be consistency. There'll be an honoring of that schedule, at least loosely. There'll be a sense of, yeah, I still may want to lead. I still like planning, but I'm released to God's planning now. And I know that God has even better purposes than me for this day. And this day is not going to fall apart if I don't get to own it. So there's just a release of that pressurized, like I have to plan for spontaneity, and also a
Mm,
release to pain. Like I said, like pain might be part of a day, sorrow. I think once you get to a certain place as a 7, like you welcome feeling your feelings. Like yesterday or the day before, I was welcoming. I get this like almost like a lifting in my heart where there's like something over it, covering it, and I can feel it lifting up into my outer chest. And when I
mm,
feel the radiating of my heart outward, it's good. And it's so odd
yeah.
because it's sadness, but to feel anything when you've got something over your heart like a protective wall, to feel it is just such a gift. So I will sit with that and just put my hand on my heart and actually try to procure it for longer, to just be in it. So that's, I think, 7
Wow.
when we're doing our work.
Oh, I love that. I love how you connected the emotion feeling the emotions to the body, and how you're connecting. So, I mean, as a 7 in the headspace, just to
I love
to
how you
bring
named
it
that.
back to working on the emotions that can sometimes be repressed, and then,
Mhm.
feeling them in your body, which is just
Mhm.
another resource to be able to, connect, because yeah, if you can sit still and
Yeah,
sense into that, it's like, okay, they're all right there.
yeah.
Grief, joy, um,
Mhm.
fear, all of it has those physical sensations that we can so be aware of, and then maybe the words will come later for what those feelings are. But
Mm,
mm,
you
it's a
nailed it.
beautiful
That's right.
description.
Mm.
So yeah,
Well,
talking about that like body awareness and tools for self-regulation, I imagine the work that you do, not only as a mother and, homeschooling and, um, but doing the work you do with couples, there's an ups and downs of emotions throughout the day to be able to just show up for other people. So, how do you regulate your nervous system as a 7 or just in the type of work you do?
I try to take a little rest each day. Like I'll probably take one right after this. I try to connect with my kids on silly stuff. Maybe we'll work to try to fit a show in once in a while to just regulate through like something funny because I do live with a 9. And so she really appreciates that if we stop and watch something fun. But that's not always going to happen for me because I'll do more of that like after work. But I would say through the day, I just put things in that allow for nervous system cleansing, like a little nap, a walk, a show with my kids, a little treat. One thing I do is I work out, and that time really helps me and blesses me to cleanse. And it feels sometimes boring because I like to do um, different things, right? Like that's pain. Working out is pain. But it really cleanses me. And whether it's running or Pure Barre or something else, it's good for me to take time as long as I honor my body. It's good for me to kind of allow for some release of all I'm carrying for other people. And to be able
Mm,
to say, there's not just a low side of our types, there's a high side. And sevens are kinetic. So when we can be in movement, there's a real gift to that and a real cleansing of all we've been carrying for others. Because, like you said or alluded to, it's not a natural place for a 7 to do that, but we like solving problems. So that means we have to do something with all that we're carrying after we solve those problems. Like today, I
mm,
helped a couple to not separate. And that cost me something in my nervous system. So I'm going to need that nap today, whereas I didn't yesterday. I was able to just do a 7-minute workout in addition to my regular
mhm,
Pure Barre. And that was like enough for yesterday. But today I'm like, I need a nap. That wore me
mhm.
out.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, that solving problems, I think of that, there's also a limitation with that, and then, recognizing and feeling what it's like when, "Oh, wait, this is something that's beyond me. I have to turn this over.
Exactly.
I have got
Yeah,
to
this is
take the time
God's.
and space to go at, this is God's.
Yeah.
I've done what I'm capable of doing to bring to the table, and then beyond this, I have to
Mhm.
let it go." And,
Yes.
and that's a probably a head, heart, and body thing.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is. It's
each
like those
day.
little yeah, I need my workout. I can't schedule a client in there. Just, "Sorry, I'll try to fit you in this week if I can. I gotta take care of me too, or I'm gonna not be good for you."
Mm, yeah, so good. So, I would love to hear more about what you have been working on recently. You've already published, which is called the Enneagram in Marriage, your guide to thriving together in your unique pairing.
Yes.
But then what are you working on and or have wrapped up now as a new book project? Would love to hear more
Oh,
about that.
thank you. Well, in addition to the quiz, which is the most present and exciting thing,
Mhm.
we are working on our next book, and that is me with Whitaker House Publishing. Right now, it's in their hands, and they will be taking a turn with it for probably a couple months and handing it back to me afterwards. So it's been nice to have a little bit of a free time to do my regular work. As you heard me saying, that keeps me pretty busy,
Yeah.
but it's also been neat to finish up the draft 1 for them because that's a book on those 3 instincts that Jessica and I were alluding to earlier, the self-pres, sexual, social. And getting to talk with Russ Hudson this year was such a game changer for me around the sexual instinct and really clarified for me so much about what I want to make sure my clients and I keep in mind. And then I was able to even add that into my book too. It was at the tail end of the editing, but I was able to bring that clarification in. So I'm just excited I get to help couples with learning how those 3 instincts really do run the show on a deep dive level for us. Day to day, it's like, am I feeling taken care of? Am I feeling connection and chemistry with you? And am I safely social? Those things are everything to humans. So when I can get couples thinking about these and talking about these, that's my favorite thing. And that's what I get to write my next book about. So hopefully it'll be coming out in 2027. That's what I'm told.
Wow. Oh, I'm so excited because I got to
Thank
be with you on your journey
you.
through the first book from the beginning, I think, of your writing, back in, was it 22 you started that?
22, really, the
22.
thick of it.
Okay.
And then it was published end of 23.
Yeah, because while I was in my certification with you, you were
Mhm.
writing the book, and then I got to be part of the launch and all that stuff, so it was
Ah,
so exciting, it's helped so many people,
oh,
and this
thank
next one, I
you.
know instincts are huge right now, and everybody's got a different perspective, but that marriage perspective is it's
Mm,
powerful to
thank
put
you.
those instincts next to each other in
Thank
marriage, so
you. I'm so excited. And the other book, Enneagram and Marriage, as you know, is going to be published in Turkish at some point too. So that's
Ooh,
exciting. And that's I was invited at some point, my family and I, to go speak in Turkey about it or sign books. And I'm
wow.
excited. Wes is excited about that. My self-pres is like, huh?
Yeah.
What? Not something I would have asked for, but my 9 who loves travel and my 7 part of me and my hubby are all excited, like, because books can bring you on journeys, as you know, as being a writer, like, or an artist, like you bringing your art to this cafe we were talking about before we got on, like, now you've brightened up a space, and maybe I can brighten up a space, and it just I think we both get it, and
Oh,
everyone listening, all of us have a creative part. When we get to bring that to anyone, even if we're a little bit scared, it's like, do it scared, it's so worth it, right?
yeah, yeah. No, I love that you use your writing as a way to just continue to work out big ideas and nuance all the strategies and
Thank you,
the
I love
joy and
that.
the possibility and the ways in
Yeah.
which we have there is hope. There's so much hope with all of this. That
Oh,
we face shadows and roadblocks in relationships, but you know, there's so much God has for us in all of it. So your
yes.
writing's beautiful. You do
Oh
such a
my
good job.
gosh, thank you, and I'm glad that I can have other people help tune it up too, because I know I can always grow and learn, so it's neat. There's things you give away when you share a book project with others, but I think the gift you get is also big because you're like, "You're gonna catch my blind spots," so that's nice too.
Hmm. Well, as we wrap up, I'd love for you to just, where can we find your podcast, your books, and connect with you as a coach or any of the coaches that have been certified through Enneagram and Marriage?
Aw, thank you. Well, I would love for you to, as I said, if you're new to the Enneagram, feel free to go to quizforcouples.com and just take your Enneagram quiz. But more or less, we'll be bringing that over to the Enneagram and Marriage website. So if you're an website lover, that's where you can find just about everything that I do, Enneagram and Marriage, and the affiliate coaches that have trained through this program as well that we've developed. So make sure you check them out or check my work out, and then the book as well. And then the Instagram account is the one I spend most of my time at, and my crew does as well, just to help people to find us through social media. So that's Enneagram and Marriage is the handle, or podcast wherever you listen, Enneagram and Marriage. But thank you. You're such a deep and detailed host. I always cherish our conversation. So thank you so much for this time, Jessica.
Oh, I've loved it so much. And I did forget one thing I wanted to ask
Oh,
you,
sure.
um, which I ask most of my guests, is that what's one practice that is bringing transformation to your soul
Oh.
or to your life and relationships recently?
Hmm. I think it's the practice of not rushing lately. I'm such a rusher as a 7, and just I feel that the Lord about a month back really spoke to me. Don't rush. And that's been transformative for me. It's been empowering. I'm
Mm,
fawning less. I'm still falling all over myself because that's part of being a 7. But I'm definitely fawning less, and I'm definitely more present with my family. Um, and when I say present, it's not like I wasn't, but I was rushing the presence. And now I'm just trusting God a bit more. I want to say a bit more because I do track in sort of these 1% changes. Like if I try to do more than that, I'm like, oh no, I don't see any progress. But if I remember the little thing I did, I'm like, oh yeah, I am changing. So that's been a really
wow.
nice new word he's been giving me, as like clear, and also just the words slow down and don't rush.
Hmm.
And I'm just grateful for those words. I need those words.
That's such great advice, and that, a slower or a more still um, kind of countenance. I think, you just so many good things can come from a place of slowing down for all of us, but definitely for 7. So thank you for sharing
Oh
that.
yeah. you so
Yeah.
much. It's a great question. And it's like, it's going to look so different for sevens, but it's our
Yeah.
way of slowing down.
Yeah. So I will also leave you with a blessing. May you be open and aware to everything that comes to you today, welcoming it all for your transformation.
Hmm. Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. So, real quick before we head out, I wanted to make sure everybody knows about an opportunity for soul care. My husband and I have a property in East Tennessee called Shiny Eyes Retreat, and we will leave links in the show notes for you to check out any opportunities to rent or come join us on soul care retreats. So, if you're just looking at spring and summer going, I need a space that's quiet, I need privacy, I need a mountain view, I need to be able to hear the birds chirp and myself think, join us. Come and rest at Shiny Eyes. And we would love to host you. So, in addition to relationship coaching, this is just a great opportunity to take care of yourself. And if while you're there, you want to do some coaching, we're always available for that as well, or any sort of spiritual direction. That could be an opportunity to help someone, have someone else help you listen to God. So thanks for joining us again on the podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Transforming Us podcast. We hope that you enjoyed the conversation and that you found it helpful. If you loved what you heard, we would really appreciate if you would take a moment and leave us a 5-star review and rating. Your support helps us reach more listeners like you.
And also don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more relationship content. Then if you're looking to take your growth to the next level, check out our coaching services and groups at transformingus.org.
We're here to help you transform your patterns and enjoy more secure relationships.
Until next time, in the words of Raoul Shane, you do not need to do big things. Just do small things in a big way. Then transformation will follow you.